This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News, reading another article from Shedding of the Ego, link in the description. One of the questions that MGTOW seek to answer is how to overcome the biological limitations of our humanity that fuel gynocentrism and male disposability. Unfortunately, as a sexually reproducing species and a sexually dimorphic one at that, our options are largely non-existent until technology allows humanity to transcend their biological limitations. The biggest game changer would be the use of technology to allow humans to reproduce asexually through cloning. One of the problems is that people would still have a sex drive, and have the instinct to reproduce sexually, even if there were asexual alternatives. In answer to this comes the proverbial sex robot, but such technology, especially if we are considering overcoming the uncanny valley and making an android that is convincingly human, is generations away. While women don't have to fear being replaced by robots in terms of sex and reproduction at this time, robots are already replacing them in many of their other capacities, especially in the workplace. An article from The Atlantic called "What Jobs Will the Robots Take?" examined the industries at the highest risk of becoming automated in the future. Manufacturing and office administration are at the top of the list, but there are others as well. The article shows a graph taken from an Oxford paper which compared different industries and their likelihood of being automated in the future. The top industries included office and administrative support, service, sales and related, while the least likely industries to be affected were education, legal, community service, arts and media, management, business and financial, healthcare practitioners and technicians, science, computer, and engineering. I do have an issue with how the industries were grouped. For example, education, legal, community service, arts, and media were all put in a single group. However, according to an article from the Huffington Post, education is going to be replaced by online alternatives in the very near future. According to the article, quote, "Over the next 2 decades, a perfect storm of factors, including the prohibitive cost of conventional brick-and-mortar education and the need to upskill on the fly in a rapidly changing job environment, will hollow out hundreds of middle-range colleges and universities, leaving nimble, tech-driven online operators on the low end and only the most price-impervious elite brands on the high end." Unquote. If we remove education as a safe industry, as well as industries that are largely volunteer-based like community service and art, we're left with the following: media, business management and financial, healthcare practitioners and technicians, science, computer, and engineering. Aside from healthcare and possibly media, these are largely male-dominated fields, despite all the money being spent on women in college. The industries most likely to be automated are primarily industries that are heavily female-dominated, especially office and administrative support. An example of this comes from another article from The Atlantic which details how businesses are using computer algorithms to sort through job applications rather than using traditional hiring managers and human resources, with the additional benefit being that using computers rather than people eliminates in-group biases. Robots can't do everything, but they are particularly apt at replacing low-skilled jobs, and thus female jobs. In an article from Industry Week wherein manufacturing was examined, it was found that robotic automation did not affect all manufacturing job sectors equally. The article notes that low-skilled workers suffered the most, but the impact was less dramatic for middle-wage workers, i.e. managers. The article further notes that how sectors organized work affected how severely they were affected by automation. Solutions include having better trained and skilled workers that will work with robotics, and reform in education to focus on vocational training, especially in high tech. As I mentioned in my previous article, The Cost of Pandering to Women in College, the West is shortchanging its men in order to prop up women for the purposes of chasing the mirage of gender equality. In the short term, immigration from Asia may prop up the STEM sectors, but in the long run, most of these women will find themselves replaced by robots and computer programs. The only jobs left will be those wherein men have a natural aptitude, and the West will have 2 choices. Continue to enforce gender equality by forcing companies to hire less qualified women. This will cause the companies to go their own way and move overseas, as well as pass along their higher labor and lower productivity costs along to their customers, which will mean a lower standard of living for everyone. Or, accept that men and women aren't equal. Ironically, both feminism and MGTOW are both trying to transcend the limitations of our biology. While feminism attempts to overcome the limitations of female biology through government fiat, MGTOW seek to overcome the need for women through technology. Even more ironically, both strategies rely on men, as the government requires male taxpayers to fund its gynocentric policies, and technology requires male invention and innovation. At the end of the day, the world of tomorrow will be built by men, just as the world has always been. Whether women have a place within that world is still an open question, but I suppose that will depend on men as well. This is Turd Flinging Monkey signing off.